And recording.
How do everyone? How are we doing this week then? All good? Cool. So we've got a few things on the agenda for this week, which is review actions from last week, review outstanding PRs, an update on charters for working groups, and then any other business. Has anyone got anything else to add? No? Cool. So should probably start off with the reviewing the actions from last week then. So the first one that we've got as a PR for us to review is 158 to add the directory for the current approved working groups. I'll paste that in the chat for everyone, which Eric raised. Myself and Stefan have approved that one, and it's been open for a week. So I think with Eric having approved that already, we've already got enough there to close that one and merge it in.
Yeah, sounds good.
Would you like to do the honors, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Okay.
Merged.
Excellent. Then the next action is the slightly more gnarly one, which is around the reference deployments working group, which I will just paste in there, 139. Now we had the action on there to update to reflect current status.
What I did just a half an hour ago, I at least removed the Kubernetes related projects as we discussed last time, and I adjusted some words here and there and streamlined it to the structure with working group areas. But the real work, the approvers by area and especially a work group lead is still open.
Yeah, so I'm going to be raising that at the board meeting as something that requires some action and some support from above on there. Okay. Then there was an action on me to create a PR for the RFC process. That's done, and it's down in the outstanding PRs to review. Then we have Amelia's series of PRs. So the working agreement, GitHub Teams and Access, which now I've picked up files view. I don't want files view. 170. Which here we've got some approval and some requesting of changes. Okay, cool. So it's just a bit of wording changes. All right. I'm happy to give Amelia a chance to have a look at that one and adjust accordingly. Okay, so then the PR workflow, which is 171. We've got two reviews on here from Jan and Stefan. I've had a read through this one, and I think given the level of commenting on here, it's probably worth Amelia just having a look at what to choose from here to integrate and what to reject and move it forwards that way. One thing we haven't thought about is, should we as TOC push on these things? Actually, no, that goes contra to the thinking of the RFC approach and people pushing it through themselves, or them doing the heavy lifting on moving things forward. Bless you, Chris. So I guess this one, it's for Amelia. You'll have the notifications there of the comments on it. So yeah, let that one go, I guess, for the time being. Okay.
What about when it's time to roll this out, right? Like, this is one that I think we could roll out with automation, correct?
Yes.
And so we might try to get Chris's help for that or something like that.
Yeah, I'd say so. Chris and Ruben as the experts on GitHub automation.
I was using GraphQL recently, but only for reading. I haven't tried manipulating repo stuff with GraphQL.
I'm working on that currently, like with the new GitHub projects, beta stuff, and GraphQL and Go. So I'm getting more and more familiar.
Nice. Okay, so the next one that we've got is project roadmap and visibility. And there's been an interesting point raised on this is what about discovering old proposals, which I think is something that's well worth considering as part of it to avoid that circular loop of keep asking the same question again. So we'll see what Jeff comes back with on that one. And then the interesting stale bot, which is 172.
Lots of controversy.
Yes, indeed. So there's been a lot of activity on this one that I think's quite an interesting one. As we have the proposer here, would you like to fill in your thinking on this, Ruben?
I'm happy with all the feedback. I mean, I just went with a simple approach. Basically just made a proposal for what we're currently doing with at least from the Bosch side of things, what we did before the whole TOC stuff. But yeah, there's additional requirements. One thing that so in all the discussion here, people are talking about issues and PRs like they are the same thing. I think we should distinguish between the two because from a workflow point of view, I mean, we have no commitment to resolving issues, right? I mean, issues are nice, but I mean, we should look at them, but I mean, there's no guarantee that someone will pick it up and go work on it. While a PR, the work has already been done, and it's just up till the foundation or the working group members to review it, right? And we have people assigned to do that work. So yeah, that's why I'm like, we should probably treat them differently. We'll comment about that in the proposal.
Is like my comments that were like starting in a direction of maybe we shouldn't just close issues of people. Yeah, in my opinion, I agree that there's no like guarantee that you just open an issue and somebody will pick it up and solve it.
Yeah,
that's why, yeah, sure, one of the things you could label it with is, yeah, sure, nice, that makes sense, it's a problem or it's a feature that somehow makes sense, so I'm not going to close it right away with an explanation why this is something we want to do or actually don't want to have in that project, but instead say, yeah, if somebody wants to pick it up, they can do. But like, I just don't like this when your issues, like you take the time to open an issue for something you think would be worthwhile solving or providing, and then it just gets closed after 21 days with nobody ever looking at it. That's just not the feeling. Like I, as somebody approaching a community, I would immediately turn around and search for a different community, right? If that's my first time experience, that's where I was coming from. I mean, I subtitled everything with, but then like, if you actually think this is the right thing to do, I'm the last one to say you are not allowed to do it that way, right? Yes. But that was my input on that one.
Yeah, so you don't want things to be closed without any response, right? So there should at least be one response before things can get closed.
I think working groups should triage bugs and then sort them by we want to solve them, even if that's a valid feature request, or like and then decide on them, right? Instead of it's a bot actually saying, yeah, you know what, go home and we don't care.
I mean,
that's a different experience, right?
Yeah, it's a hugely different experience, in my opinion. The other thing is, of course, issues can be a great source of user research, where you're finding out actually this thing isn't an issue, but we haven't surfaced the way of getting around it. So our documentation is deficient, or another, there's something else missing. So it is something that's valuable, and yeah, having a human being interact with it is a very valuable thing.
I mean, I agree. If a working group would be loaded with, I don't know, like 75% of their time investing into the community is triaging issues, then we have a different issue. I don't know how to solve this one. And then maybe we need, I don't know what, or if, I don't know, somebody would start spamming repos with issues, or I don't know, then maybe. But as long as things are reasonable, I do think that issues should be looked upon, right? And like gathered, like if they are not well written, then put it on author action. Say, I don't even understand what the problem is. Maybe you should, here's like our template. Maybe you should provide some additional info, and these kind of things. And author action is also fine if we then stale and close an issue, right? Apparently the author has no further interest in that. So it's really for this initial, like the initial response for an issue is not only coming only after 21 days, but it's also an auto close. That's just the experience that I wouldn't like to provide to people approaching the community. That's all. Like if that makes issues by placing the burden of triaging issues and like really on a working group, and this is a high burden, then we might need to think about that again. But unless this is the case, I would rather have these triaged and closed by a human being with some reasoning behind it, or push back to the author with like, please go into details, provide some logs, whatever. Yeah, that kind of thing.
That makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, there would be even like, I know that an internal team here has actually bots that would like with a simple command, it would add the list of these are the infos that you should provide. Here's how you get the logs from here. So we could even automate part of this. They didn't fully report the context of that issue, and as some other things, and that's like, yeah.
Okay, cool. So then the final action was to modify the standing actions to include PRs for review. There's a new section, outstanding PRs for review. So the first of those that we've got is number 66. Actually, we'll just paste it. Sorry, 166. Oops, if I can do things. Add CF Linux FS3, the stack to interfaces working group. We've got 3 TOC votes in there, and it's been open for 12 days. So that's not a. We've got Eric as well. So yeah, that's good to go, I think. So I'll hit the button on that one. Cool. That was easy. So then adjust haproxy boshrelease link 175. Okay. So this one I don't think is particularly controversial. The only thing that I don't understand is the comment. For Amelia, can we adjust the repo here, also here, which I'm not sure what that's actually indicating. So I'm inclined to not okay that yet, because I don't understand that. I'm hoping Amelia does, unless anyone else has got any idea. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if Patrick intended to link to something else with here.
Yeah.
And didn't. Yeah, not clear.
Or reference a line, or yeah, I'm really not sure on that one. So I'm inclined to leave that for the moment. So then the next one.
Oh yeah, and that comment was earlier today even. So
yes.
okay.
Yeah. So given time zones, I think that's reasonable to leave that one. So then we've got 169, remove syslog-release from ARP responsibilities in favor of keeping it in FI. And this closes a particular comment, sorry, an issue that we've got about syslog-release being in 2 working groups simultaneously. So I don't think that's a particularly controversial one. So I've approved that one. I will leave it to yourselves to feel free on that one as well. And we have, oh, cool. We can skip that one because Eric has merged. So that's cool. So adding the directory for the current approved working groups is in. So that one's cool. And then the final one that we've got at the moment is the one that I opened last week, 174, for the RFC process. So I did tag everyone on this one to have a read through, raise any comments, concerns, thoughts, issues. So do feel free on whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. I somehow missed your request for review on this last week.
No worries. No worries. So yeah, it's taken the bits that I went through last week and then just modifying them and adapting them for our purpose. So I think that it should be fairly non-controversial, that one. And that's all our current outstanding PRs at the moment that aren't already tied up elsewhere. So the vulnerability management working group, that's one that I think we're actually in a position to say yay or nay on this one now, as we've got all bar one person's GitHub handle. So that's, yes, we've got the interesting one where, okay, so Eric, you've voted via comment then, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
Let me double check the PR.
It's 151. Yeah, I'll just post it.
Check. I had a conversation with Matthias about it, and I asked him to comment on this PR, but I don't see it at the moment. If not, I do have the GitHub handle in my mailbox somewhere. Okay. I can look it up and write a comment at least.
Okay, cool.
So he knows about it, so it's not anymore that he would be completely surprised, but you know, of course it works.
Okay, cool. So that should be a small amend, and then that's no problem at all. So that's available for everyone to have a look at as and when ready. Okay, then the next one is the community experience, which is 150.
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't have a chance to move this along in the past week.
Okay.
So no updates yet.
All right, cool. And the final one is reference deployments, which, as we know, is a bit of a gnarly one. So I will raise that tomorrow, and we'll see where we move forwards with on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone got anything else working group wise at the moment? No. Okay, cool. So that kind of segues us into any other business at the moment.
One thing I was thinking about with the kind of set of proposals that we've had coming out of the working groups, assuming that we approve the RFC process, would we maybe, I don't know, have a meta RFC to reformat those things to go into the RFC sequence so they're all consolidated?
Probably yes, I think in there.
That would make sense to me.
Yeah, because it was a little bit, as I think we mentioned last week, it was a bit sort of chicken and egg with some things being raised before we'd actually define the process. So to me, it makes sense. It doesn't matter who does the massaging into format, but yeah, we can sort that between us. So that's no great problem there. Okay. Yeah. Anybody got anything else? David, you've always got something.
Well, I don't know. That's a good point, Lee. I do almost always have something.
Yeah.
No, not today. I've been spending some time imagining how the PR only model is going to impact day-to-day operations, but I don't think like we shouldn't go ahead with it. I think we should talk about when it doesn't make sense, but we can figure that out later and be like, by default, we're just going to do this. And then I suspect there's going to be a whole category of repositories that it just doesn't make sense to do because they're like not production code repositories. But we can like put them in some exception process later or like, and so on. And like bots need to be able to make commits without a review, or maybe they don't, or maybe we should have bots and PRs which are reviewed by people, but maybe in some circumstances there's like bots that need to be able to make commits, like, I don't know, Concourse checking out resource pool as items and putting them back in the pool is totally not a thing that we're going to be able to follow that process on, and so on. But I don't have anything that new to report there, except that I think we're going to need more refinement of it, and we can drive that later. I've been thinking a lot about the V3 build packs, cloud native build pack layers, and like whether we really have the appetite to like shim this or not. I think the report from the build packs folks that had been working on it was that that there's sort of two ways to support newer versions of build packs inside of Cloud Foundry, right? Either we shim them into the V2 build pack contract, or we somehow actually add support for Docker image-based build packs going in and out in multiple layers. And like, that's a big lift. And so the team's not actually sure that the shim 100% works is the problem. So we started with like, yeah, we can totally shim this, it's gonna be great. And we ended up with, we should really figure out whether we can shim this. And I'm like, oh no, but what if we can't? So I'm leaving it to them to try to figure out whether it makes sense to make that proposal or not. I'm still like, Jan, you and I are like really hoping that the like V3 build packs, and I think Eric is too.
Yeah.
But like, we can't magically, if it's going to be a big lift and the team's going to have to maintain lots of sets of build packs for the foreseeable future, we can't like trivially make them do it because it could be a bunch of work.
Yeah, that's
It's
pretty...
like, yeah, like judging from the 10,000 feet that I have, I guess doing it as a like native integration is maybe even the easier route, but it might get more complicated in terms of what kind of compatibility we can provide. That's where shimming is probably the better, but that might also cost more. Like, I mean, we did integrate building cloud native build packs into a Jenkins library recently. So it is not too hard to run the CNB lifecycle in a container scheduler. And Diego is, as far as I know, a container scheduler, like with not only long running operations, but also tasks. So that shouldn't be that much of an issue. But as I said, compatibility is probably easier or better to provide if we go that other route that I have no idea how complex that could get.
And Diego has Docker image support too, as like a file format, a container format, right?
We have life cycles, right? Life cycles is like a pluggable thing.
Yep.
Well, okay.
Yeah, something that's kind of smeared across Cloud Controller and Diego.
Yeah, definitely some work would be required in Cloud Controller as well.
But yeah, that's what I've been thinking about. I'm like, really want this to come together, but can't make it happen. So really, like, trying to figure out who needs what in order to feel like they have enough room to make a proposal to do this.
Oh, and there's, by the way, an interesting new dependency that you would introduce by making this kind of really natively, which is a Docker registry. Because like if you shim it, then the result is a droplet, which you can then again put into the S3 storage or wherever, like all the other things that are in place already. But if you're really building this and not shimming, then the result is a image, which is also kind of a blob, but it's like
The registry doesn't seem like a
the
requirement.
details and the devil, right? In this case, we'll meet him or her. I don't know.
Them.
Them. Probably them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting one. That one. And any news on Jammy?
It works.
It works.
Yeah, no.
Pre-release.
Oh, cool.
So, so there was a task force formed between SAP and some people from the VMware team, and they are spiking out, like figuring out where if they can get something to build based off the last stable LTS release. So that's kind of, or not LTS, I think. Yeah, something that's close to Jammy, right? So they're just spiking it out. They found at least that Monit is not compatible. It cannot build. So that's the thing. But like they stepped over that by just updating to the latest Monit, which is not legally a solution for the long term, but we just want to figure out if there's other big issues. But I think they got, with that Monit thing and a few other changes, they got a Bosch create env to work. I mean, there's probably still lots of other incompatibility issues, but at least the process has been started to at least do the explore, so that by the time it is released, we have a good idea of what things need to happen, and maybe we can already start some streams of work for bigger refactorings if needed.
Cool. That's really, really encouraging for so early on. And that's really handy to know in advance of tomorrow. Cool. Has anyone got anything else?
Yeah. During, I think, 2 meetings ago, infrastructure work, foundational infrastructure working group meeting, there was a question about, so there's the foundation owned concourse with GCP resources and everything. Do we want to give approvers, all the approvers, access to that? Because, I mean, we have talked about sharing like code responsibilities, but we have not really talked about sharing CI resources yet, and like the responsibility for that, because it comes with a whole different set of responsibilities, I guess, right? And there's even more, there's, I think, even a different level of trust, right? Because if you own or have access to those resources, you can do serious harm. I mean, you could maybe potentially make a malicious stem cell or something. I don't know, right? Those types of things. So yeah, that's why I want to bring it up here, because I mean, like, this is the first case where we have a concourse that's owned by the foundation, and we don't really have a role for that. Or, yeah, just wanted to bring it up here.
Major difference to access to the code is that there's no 4i principle for CI access, right? Because like with 2i access to the code base, you can basically run whatever you want in the CI, right? By just manipulating the right pieces of the code and like build scripts. But that's true. Like, you can do so unobserved if you actually run there. In terms of supply chain security management, this is probably not what we want, but hard topic, I'd say.
Yeah, I
Hard to
thought, like,
decide.
keep it for the end of the meeting. Just like
I mean, one important aspect of that, like, would already be like, what about auditability? Like, do we at least know what happened and who did it? Probably, I don't know. The answer is it's not easy or something. But that would be one of the things probably.
Yeah, on the other hand, I would like to give the teams who own the code base also full responsibility and about the CI stuff. I mean, otherwise you are just waiting for somebody else, and it's usually a source of trouble.
You can certainly get the logs out of it, and you can certainly get them into Splunk. I know that because we're doing it. Though, should be possible without going to that level.
there's also quite a big, like, if we're going Splunk, there's also a big cost factor there.
There is.
From what I've heard.
But the logs do exist. It is kind of the way that I'm going with that one. So they are there. It's just where they're being surfaced, and then are they. So we send to Splunk because it's a third, it's a third team that own that, and we don't have any access to it. So the check and balance is we can't interfere with that data. Can it be interfered with whilst still on the concourse? Probably. Does that trip up logs elsewhere?
I mean, but that's only the concourse, right? The concourse, right? If you have access to that project, you can SSH onto the concourse machines. You have access to all the secrets because you have access to the credit, so you can make changes directly into like an S3 bucket or whatever, right? You have full access. We don't have like different levels there. There's no,
I mean, maybe we just try to reduce blast radius and, like, I don't know, give the working group leads access, and they are allowed to delegate it if there's something to be done there. If there's a good reason to work on this, we can, like, on a timely manner, they can delegate that. So we have at least like less people that we need to trust, and more direct trust interactions instead of just giving 100 people access to infrastructure accounts that they seldom need, right? I mean, it's going to be needed, but hopefully not on a day-to-day basis, right? Maybe that's the compromise then.
I mean, that seems like a good starting point, definitely.
And you could limit that, right? Like, just thinking about some things, if we were, like, as we are talking about supply chain security, if we had, I don't know, signing keys somewhere, we don't need to give access to the Google secret storage to everyone just so that they can restart the concourse. So you can also split there in terms of, because Ruben said they could release a malicious stem cell. We should probably try to avoid that by all means possible and like reasonable.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something scary, right? to really
Yeah,
think
sure.
about it.
And you're right. And you're right about that.
Yeah. So conclusion is just the people that really need it, and we're not going to by default give approvers access to common resources. And I'm like if we have certain maintenance tasks that would be useful to share with a broader group of people, right? We can have like a limited scope role or something and give that to these people. But that will be on a case-by-case basis, I guess.
That seems, sensible approach to me.
Thanks. Do we need to put this somewhere, this decision? I mean, this call is recorded, but I don't know if this is something we would amend to the roles document or something.
I mean, I suppose technically it will become an RFC. Yeah, well, that seems the most sensible one for it. Okay. Has anyone got anything else for this week? Okay. I guess we should probably gain 20 minutes back in that case then. All right. Have a wonderful